and I didn't do anything. Welcome everyone. It's nice to see all of you here for a beautiful evening. And I would like to thank all of you for taking the time and effort to join us tonight, and also for many of you who've already donated to Altruism in Medicine Institute. So we're very appreciative of all that. It's going to be a great evening with the Venerable Dr. Barry Kerzin. Barry knows many of you because of his Ventura roots. So tonight we'll hear balancing mind and body. So for many of you who don't know much about the Altruism in Medicine Institute, their main goal is to improve healthcare through compassion. And I'm sure Barry will be speaking about that today. We'll be finishing tonight about 9 o'clock because we have workshops. The first workshop will be tomorrow morning. Barry would like to finish by 9 so that he can get some sleep, some beauty sleep, I was going to say. So just to let you know because if anyone wants to join us, we have workshops. And when I just looked a few hours ago, we had one slot for tomorrow and one slot for Sunday, but they'll go fast. We have a few slots for next Saturday and Sunday. So if you go on the Altruism in Medicine website, and you should have that on the slip of paper in front of you, so you can go on that and sign up. So we have a few slots, particularly for next weekend, mostly on Sunday. So please join us. Barry said that it'll be more personal, a lot more discussion, and a little more in-depth, so that if you'd like to join us for that. I have one big job to do, and that's to ask you all to turn off your cell phones. What did I ask you to do? What did I ask you to do? Yeah, you can see I teach college, right? Because it's not what I say, it's what I know they hear, okay? So, did I introduce my name?
No.
I didn't. That was the first thing on my list. I'm sorry. My name is Jerry Clifford, and I've been helping organize this event. I'm from the university across town, and Chris Kimball has allowed me to come here anyway. I'm at Cal State Channel Islands, but I've actually spent many summers here at Cal Lutheran. Okay, other than asking you to turn off your cell phones, I'd like to thank some people. There are many people that it took to put this evening together, including the organizing group, and that is particularly Fran and Ed Elson. Fran and Ed, it's actually, Fran actually ran the event we had at the Camarillo Library 2 years ago. And it's also because of the close personal relationship that I think we can be happy to have Dr. Kerzin here today. And I'll give you the whole list, and you can applaud Sal and Edie Santangelo, Bill and Chris Garlington, BJ Fan, and Barbara Wolf. So let's give them a big round of applause. And then there's another group that are very important. We couldn't be in this venue without the support of Cal Lutheran University. So this evening is sponsored by the Altruism in Medicine Institute and Cal Lutheran University. And I'll wait to introduce the president, but I have dealt very closely with Linda Fulford. She is the Associate Vice President for University Relations. Thank you, Linda. And her team, Cindy Keitel and Robin Fielding. I see Cindy is there. And now it's my pleasure to introduce President Chris Kimball. I've known Chris for 10 years, I think, Chris. Since you came here as the provost, we met in one of my summer programs. And it's been a pleasure to know him, and it was very nice that Chris entertained the idea of having this event here. So I want to thank Chris. Chris has been the president of Cal Lutheran since 2008, and he's got a PhD from University of Chicago. I'm from Chicago, so that's a good thing. Yeah. In American history, he has and especially in urban studies, he has a new book coming out, and the book is The History of Ballparks in Minnesota. Now, Chris, I got to ask, how many hot dogs did you have to eat to write that book? You're still eating them. So, I'd like you to welcome the president of Cal Lutheran, Dr. Chris Kimball.
Thank you, Jerry. How many people are here on our campus for the first time? Is there anyone? Oh, quite a lot of you. I want to extend a special welcome. It's a delight and honor for us to have this event here, and especially delightful to get people on the campus for the first time. We hope it's not the last time. I was told I could have 35 minutes to talk about the university. For those of you that don't know it, I won't do that. Let me just alert you to one thing. When you leave this evening, you may hear someone shouting, a horse, my kingdom for a horse." That's not to suggest that we're bringing equestrian studies back. Are we, Dr. Fogg? I don't think so. But tonight is the opening of Richard III, the second show that our Kingsman Shakespeare professional company is putting on. You probably noticed them doing their pre-performance stuff. So you won't be able to go tonight, but I want to encourage you to come back and see one of Shakespeare's great plays. And for those of you that follow these things, the fact that Richard III's bones were discovered, I think, under a parking lot in England and then reburied makes it especially timely. But something else that is timely, or at least appropriate, is this event. Particularly for people that don't know us, they might wonder, well, what's this Lutheran thing all about in the middle name of the university, and why are we doing this in a chapel? And without going into the 35-minute talk or turning it over to Dr. Fogg, who would do it better than I would, I'll just say a couple of things. That part of our identity and heritage of Lutheran institution is understanding that we have to be a place for conversation, dialogue across all traditions, and among those who have no religious tradition at all. That this is a place where all are welcome, and matters of faith and matters of reason, not that the two are antithetical, they overlap and complement, but those are part of what we have to do as an educational institution. And so this very chapel will hear our rabbi on staff leading worship. You'll find many of our Muslim students across there in our meditation chapel doing their daily prayers. That's part of a big part of who we are and what we're about. And so to have this event here with so many connections to the Buddhist tradition is really an important part of our mission. I'm just really honored that Jerry gave us the opportunity to host it. I also want to just say one thing about Jerry. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years, but he is such a model faculty member, a mentor for students of a whole range of ages. But I also want to note, as he did, that he actually works at Cal State Channel Islands, but has no problem coming here. Not only does he go up the threatening Caneo grade, which seems to divide our county, but can cross between public and private institutions. And in a world where higher education spends too much time, institutions competing with each other or trying to reproduce what the other one does, Jerry, you're just admirable in your willingness to always reach out and to share for the sake of students and all who want to learn. So thank you for your friendship, and thank you for making this event possible tonight. The main reason I'm up here, of course, is to introduce Dr. Kerzin, who many of you know well, and there is a lot more to be said about him than I will say. The internet can be your friend in that regard. You can read a lot about him from Wikipedia and other places, so let me just touch on a few things. He is a Buddhist monk, a teacher, a medical doctor. He was ordained by the Dalai Lama, and as you know, the reason you're here tonight is he uses his knowledge and his skills to promote the benefits of harmonizing mind and body. He has resided in Dharamshala for 28 years, serving as a doctor to many high lamas, including the Dalai Lama, as well as providing medical care to the poor. I would love to report that he had his academic training at some point at Cal Lutheran. I've looked very closely and have been unable to find that. And with some regret, report that some of his degrees, bachelor's degree in philosophy from Cal Berkeley, a neighbor of our Berkeley campus, the Pacific Lutheran Theological Seminary, and he has his medical degree a little closer to here from USC. And as Jerry mentioned, did, I think it was residency here in Ventura County, so knows us well. He currently holds a number of appointments, including at the Center for Buddhist Studies at the University of Hong Kong, and a visiting professor at Central University of Tibetan Studies in Varanasi, India. He is a faculty member of the Mind and Life Institute and a consultant on compassion training for the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig, Germany. I also should tell you that having done many meditation retreats, including a 3-year retreat, his brain was studied as part of research on long-term meditators at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and Princeton. Also an example of having public and private institutions working together for the greater good. Well, there's a lot more to say about him, but you're actually more interested in hearing from him. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Barry Kerzin.
Thanks very much, Chris. Thank you. It's lovely to be here in such a lovely place. This chapel is quite incredible. Sitting here in the front row, I could see these incredible stained glass windows. And then I see many of you who are lit up by the light that's coming through the stained glass windows. Very lovely. Yeah. So I have a few remarks that I'm supposed to mention. So before we get into the mind-body stuff, so we've been thanking. So in that, again, I'd like to thank President Chris Kimball, who has been very, very kind and I think very, very open in having a Buddhist monk here to do a program. And I didn't know this, but when he made his introductions, there is also a sizable Islamic community and sizable other religious communities. So that's actually quite wonderful. I think more and more as we go forward in the future, great religious leaders are really talking about interfaith harmony. And actually, it looks like, if we're really lucky, there might be some harmonization around the environment, because both Pope Francis and His Holiness the Dalai Lama and other great religious leaders are now speaking out very strongly. And so this might move the populace and then hopefully move the politicians. I'd like to thank all of you because, you know, if I was here alone, it wouldn't be much fun, yeah? So it's this dance that we do together. And many of us know each other. Some of us are, newly meeting each other. And we do this kind of dance that happens again and again. It's kind of like this, where we come together and we part, and we come together and we part. And it's very possible, those of you that are open to the notion of not just one life, but many lives, that we've done it before and will continue to do it again. Certainly in this life it happens. I mean, many of us have been together many times in this life already. Okay. I lived in this community, not Thousand Oaks, but in Ventura, I think for about 7 years. And during that time, I was both a resident at the Ventura County Medical Center in Ventura, and also then I went out into private practice in Ojai. And I lived out at the beach in Ventura, and it was very quaint, and these little box houses, and everybody kind of knew everybody. And I hadn't been back there for probably, 20 plus years. And the other day I drove by, and I was amazed. It looked the same. I mean, a few houses had expanded a little bit, but the same surf shop, the same ice cream shop, everything was the same. It was quite amazing. Yeah, okay. Altruism in Medicine Institute, I call it AMI, Altruism in Medicine Institute, AMI, is a nonprofit organization which was founded about 2 years ago, and I happen to be the founder and the president. And it's kind of something that's evolved over about 25, 30 years. I've been doing charitable medical work for that period of time, and also been very involved with Buddhist practice, study, and meditation. And so all these things are kind of falling together under one rubric, which we now call Altruism in Medicine Institute. And our mission is to bring more compassion into healthcare. Compassion is no longer a luxury. Compassion is now a necessity if our human man-woman kind is to survive. And so we take this very seriously. And one area where it's extremely important is when people are sick. People, and then of course their families. So this is our mission, and we invite you all to walk the path with us. And later on I'll put up the URL. I think you have it actually on a piece of paper that was given to you. This last year has been incredibly rich for AMI. We've been doing lots of programs around the world in medical schools, in nursing schools, in universities, and other teaching about compassion, and particularly teaching about the friends of compassion. So things like integrity. We all know integrity, but we tend to sort of forget a little bit sometimes. We tend to cut corners a little bit because, we live in a stressful society. And by the way, it's not just in America or in Thousand Oaks that there's a stressful society. It's everywhere in the world, pretty much. It's a modern society. People feel under the gun. There's not enough time. There are too many demands placed on us. And as a result of that, people are really stressed out. And one of the biggest places where this happens is in the healthcare sector. Doctors and nurses are burning out right and left. And before they burn out, they become depressed. They turn to alcohol, drugs, their marriages go down, they tank, and then some of them commit suicide. I mean, it's a tough world out there, and it's, the joy is often missing. And so what we teach is how to try to find that joy again, to feel good about what we do. So some of the highlights have been a couple months at Hong Kong as a visiting professor, teaching both in the medical school and also in the Center for Buddhist Studies. Recently I was at Stanford. I gave a medical grand rounds. First time somebody dressed like this, a cross-dresser. Gave medical grand rounds at Stanford University Medical School. And the first time that the topic was compassion. Amazing. They have something called CCARE, Stanford CCARE, C-C-A-R-E, Center for Compassion, Altruism, Research, and Education. And they're doing a lot of similar stuff around training and promoting compassion in the Stanford community and beyond. And so now we're making connections there. A month before that, I think it was in April, 2 months before, I was at Oxford, gave a couple talks at the business school in Oxford. And they're very much open to this kind of stuff. So it's beginning to happen in many places in the world. And I'll be going to Japan, where I go regularly. I teach a lot in the prisons there, particularly juvenile prisons. And there are some people that are very receptive to this kind of teaching, meditation and positive lifestyle kind of stuff. But more importantly than that, there seems to be less people resistant. Resistant where they would say, no, can't do these kind of programs. And so I think there is really some change happening. Okay. I'd like again to thank you all for supporting our efforts at Altruism in Medicine Institute. Some of you have made donations and will participate on the weekends. The money that goes for those programs, those meditation and workshop programs over the weekends, is being donated to Altruism in Medicine Institute. So, let's see if I have my little... Glenn, where's my little... Don't see it. Where's Glenn? Glenn around? Glenn, where's my little changer? Never had an audiovisual guy run like that before. That's amazing. Maybe I put it in my pocket. I did. Thanks, Glenn. One nice thing about being a monk, well, there are many nice things about being a monk, but one nice thing is that you have one pocket. So if you think it's in your pocket, you don't have to go look for this pocket, that pocket, this pocket, this pocket. It's right there, yeah. The other nice thing is you don't have to color coordinate. All you guys, you got something on top, you got something on the bottom, and you got to coordinate the colors. I don't have to do that. It's always red. Sometimes it's yellow. I have one special robe that's yellow that we wear for special functions. That's actually the monk's robe. But the other nice thing is I don't have to worry about relationship stuff. I also don't have to worry about work stuff, although I'm more busy than before when I was a monk. But I don't have to worry about all that kind of stuff. That's really the beauty of living a monastic life. It kind of, in a sense, frees you up to do things that you feel are important and to serve and to help others. Yeah. So tonight, can you see that? Is that okay up there? It's okay? Good. We left the lights on intentionally so you wouldn't fall asleep. So the title is Balancing the Body and the Mind, and then we'll throw in compassion and meditation. Let's see if I can, yeah, great. So this is all about turning inward, okay? Generally, we're outward focused, okay? And by being outward focused, we're focused in the future, we're expecting, we're planning, okay? And we're also focused in the past. Often it's worry, yeah? Or it's like the cow with 4 stomachs. We take the stuff and we chew it over a couple times in one of the other stomachs, the past stuff, right? But turning inward is a very different ball of wax. It's being present. How many of you know what being present is? Raise your hand. Maybe half, maybe more. Half of you roughly. Okay, good. How many of you either play or listen to music? Raise your hands. Almost everybody. Okay. When you get absorbed, are you in the present? Yeah, you are. You're not thinking about the past. You're not planning or expecting for the future. You're right there absorbed. So usually being in the present means we're absorbed. Okay? And usually when you're absorbed, you feel relaxed, you feel well. Okay? It's when we got all that chatter and the worry and the fear and all that stuff in the future and the past that kind of, it brings us down. Okay? So dropping into the present at will is very helpful to refresh not only our emotional life, but also our physical life. More and more research is showing that our health is definitely benefited by relaxing, okay? Being in the present moment. There's a lot of research done on the immune system. There's some research on the endocrine system. There's research now even on the genetic system, this field of epigenetics, which is all about, the genes are making their kind of blueprints to make a house, okay? And in this case, the house are proteins. The whole body needs proteins, right? And so when the gene turns on to make the protein, or vice versa, turns off to stop making the protein, is all determined by this field called epigenetics. And classically, we've thought that this has to do with temperature in the very small local environment, nano kind of stuff, right? Temperature, pressure, pH, acidity, base kind of stuff. But now there's some new research that needs a lot more, okay? It's just infancy, but it's showing that meditation also has a positive influence. It's a positive influence for making healthy protein, meditation. And probably the same is true of compassion and other positive or healthy mental states. Okay? So these things are profound, these things have profound effects on not only our mind, our emotions, our thoughts, but also our physical health. Turning inward. So inner peace is found not in the past, okay, for reasons I've just mentioned, but another reason is the past is gone. It's done. We live in the past as if it's still present, but that's completely mistaken. It's gone. The present moment is where we find this refreshment. Okay? You notice little kids, when they kind of get excited about something, when they first kind of see something that's exciting, they kind of go, they're just totally present. They're totally absorbed. Okay? That's being in the present, not being in the future. Okay, emotional hygiene. I've borrowed this term. I think now His Holiness the Dalai Lama uses this term. We've borrowed it from public health, where hygiene is a big issue, right? Hygiene, sanitation. So this is now about psychology. It's about the mind, okay? And so what does this mean? Emotional hygiene. Well, hygiene is to clean, so it's literally to clean the emotions. And what does that mean? It means to first recognize and then to actually transform our destructive emotions. Destructive emotions, by definition, destroy our peace, our inner peace, okay? So things like anger, jealousy, pride, stuff like that. Okay? They rob us of our peace. And so emotional hygiene is to kind of clean those things up, not by suppressing them. If we suppress them, that doesn't work, because that stuff just stays and then festers and then boom, sometime later. But actually transforms. Just like if you churn milk, you get butter, right? What happened to the milk? What happened to the milk? Huh? It transformed. There's no more milk left. It actually became butter. So same concept of emotional hygiene is transforming the destructive emotions like anger, jealousy, pride into their constructive opposites. So anger becomes tolerance or compassion. Okay? Jealousy becomes feeling happy. We use the word rejoice. It's not a very commonly used term, but it means to feel happy for the other person's success. Opposite of feeling jealous. Okay? And then pride, the opposite is humility. Okay? Now sometimes we think humility is weakness, sign of weakness. Some cultures kind of believe that. Other cultures don't at all. You know, I think our culture tends to think in general that it's kind of a sign of weakness, humility. Right? We like the tough guy, you know, the Rambo, I don't know, who was the tough guy recently? I don't know. Anyway, I've been away a long time. But obviously it's a sign of strength, okay? It's a sign of strength. Because humility allows us to reduce our ego, okay? And what happens when we reduce our ego? Love and compassion. It's like a teeter-totter, right? Ego goes up and our concern, whoa, that's the ego talking. Ego goes up and love and compassion go down, okay? It's like a balance scale. And vice versa, as our ego comes down, more humility, love and compassion automatically increases. Okay? What I'm going to try to do is end about 8:30-ish, and then we'll have some time for question and answers. And yeah, great. Okay. So, critical judgment. You know, this is the stuff that's often subliminal. Did I say that word right? Subliminal? I always have trouble with that word. Anybody else have trouble with that word? Subliminal. It's not so easy. I don't know. Good, I got it right once. You know what I'm talking about? You guys know this stuff? Judgment? Yeah? I think we all do it. And we often are unaware of it. Okay? We do it towards ourselves, we do it towards others, both. He's not so smart, a little voice says, right? That he may be yourself, or she, okay? Or maybe the other person. Or, wow, they didn't do a very good job with their haircut. You don't call it haircut anymore. What do you call it? Hairstylist. The hairstylist must have been sleeping or drunk. Yeah. We do this kind of all the time. And sometimes when we start turning inward and listening to what's happening inside, observing and listening, then we recognize. Often we don't. But we can see our reactions, okay? If all of a sudden we feel kind of something negative about that person, okay, probably there was a little subliminal, negative judgment going on just before that. Something for whatever reason, kind of we had this negative. And often that negative judgment of others comes from insecurity. Okay? When we're feeling real secure and well, a lot of this negativity stuff doesn't come up. There's kind of no reason for it. But the opposite, when we're feeling insecure about ourselves, then there's kind of a sense that by putting others down, it's going to kind of bring us up. Okay? But it doesn't. In fact, it takes us further down. So we try it again, further down. Try it again, further down. Doesn't work. But we're stuck. We usually don't know what to do. Okay? So what I'm suggesting, I'm not suggesting, this was suggested by the Buddha 2,600 years ago, repeated by many, many, many masters since then, and this is something dear to the hearts of all religions in the world, right? And many humanistic traditions that have nothing to do with, theism, a god, etc. By the way, did Dr. Kimball leave? He's left? Okay, because I want to say something. I don't want him to hear this. Buddhism doesn't believe in a God. Have I offended anybody? Sorry. In a way, Buddhism does believe in a God. Buddhists don't believe in a creator God, because one of the fundamental principles in Buddhism is the notion of cause and effect. Cause and effect. So the notion of a creator creates dissonance in a Buddhist mind, which automatically goes to the question, who created the creator? The cause of the creator. Everything has a cause. So we go back and there's no beginning to time, therefore. Okay? So in a sense, not in a creator sense of the universe and all beings, but in a slightly different sense, all of us have our own God inside. Okay? We don't quite call it God. We would more call it a potential. A potential for goodness, a potential for purity, and a potential for omniscience. Literally. Okay? So we all have what we call the Buddha nature inside of us. And you don't have to be Buddhist to have a Buddha nature inside of you. The ants have Buddha nature inside of them. Okay? Critical judgment. So this is something that turning in slide, is a plea. It's a plea for you all to begin, or if you've already begun, to continue looking in. Just check up. What's happening right now inside? What am I feeling? What's my mood? What are my thoughts? What are the sensations in my body? Okay? And do that again and again and again, because then we'll know what we have to work with. Now, sometimes when I teach meditation, people will come up to me afterwards and they'll say, I was doing great, and then I started doing this meditation and I've become crazy. I say, congratulations. I say, maybe, it's always been there in your mind and your heart, and you're just now recognizing it. Maybe. So that's a wonderful step to begin to recognize what's going on inside. And if you expect you're going to find perfection, forget it. None of us are perfect, obviously. We all have positive stuff and negative stuff. So it's all about finding out what's happening there and then learning the tools to work and transform into its constructive opposite, like churning milk into butter. The communities I live in, they still do it. They used to do it in wooden tubes. Now they do it in PVC. Is it PVC or PCV? PVC. I have been away a long time. PVC, plastic pipes, big ones, yeah? About that long. And they churn it. And they make butter. Good butter. Healthy butter. Okay. Anger. Anybody here ever get angry? Raise your hand. Huh? Anybody here never get angry? Raise your hand. Never? I don't believe it. Anybody? Scratching your head, or you're saying yes? Scratching your head. Sometimes there's a person that really holds to it. I'd never get angry. I say, really, really? They say, I'd never get angry. We all get angry. It's part of life. Yeah? We live in the fast lane often, and we have demands put on us. We put a lot of demands on ourselves, and we get frustrated, we get irritated, and often that goes easily into anger. Yeah. So what do we do about it? Well, first we recognize it. Once anger is full-blown red hot, can't do much, other than tell yourself, okay, next time, okay. What we try to do is learn the precursor, yeah, the early stages of anger. What happens in my body, what happens in my heart, what happens in my mind, what happens in my behavior, when I'm on that road to getting angry. So you have to check up. You have to do your homework, okay? And see. You can't read this in a book because it's different for every person, okay? I mean, some commonality, but you have to look inside. So next time you feel like you're getting angry, kind of examine it. What's it feel like? What's happening? Is it a certain person that I'm with? Is it a certain situation? I didn't sleep well last night, so I'm more prone to get angry. Or every time I'm with this person, somehow I just blow up. So recognize the situations. And then when you're in a similar situation, start looking and then start applying this method. There are many methods. I'm going to give you one. Often when we get angry, it's either at ourselves or another person. Okay? So let's take the example that's another person. So what I think right away is that person's not happy. People that provoke are not happy. If you're happy, you don't provoke others. Okay? So I know right off that other person is not happy. After that, I probably don't know much. I might, but often I don't. So I think relationship problems. I mean, anybody here never have relationship problems? I don't even have to ask. Of course everybody has relationship problems, yeah? Health problems, yeah? I see a fair amount of gray and white and no hair. So we have health problems, yeah? Economic problems, of course nobody ever has economic problems, right? Actually, this is a wealthy community and a wealthy university. Maybe you don't have many economic problems, but I suspect you do, okay? So I think that way. Relationship problems, health problems, economic problems. And by just thinking that way, it takes me, 15 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, something. What happens to that anger that's starting to come up? It had nowhere to go. Kind of got lost. It had to go back to its GPS and turn it back on and get the directions again. And in so doing, the anger just went, phew. Okay? Now, if you do it once and it doesn't work, you can blame me if you want, but don't get angry. You got to do it again and again, because we've had these habits with us, sometimes since childhood, okay? And to overturn them in a day, obviously, it doesn't work that way. But if you're persistent, these things work. There are many other techniques. I'll just mention one that comes from a 7th, 8th century scholar practitioner. His name was Shantideva. Shantideva. He lived in India. He was a great Nalanda University professor in northeast India, one of the greatest universities of all time. It went for almost 1,000 years. And they've excavated about 1/10 of the original campus in Nalanda, near Bodh Gaya, in Bihar, northeast India. And that's huge. The ruins are huge. And they figure that's about 1/10. So it was a big campus and housed lots and lots of monks. It was a monastic university. So he was a great professor there. And the brief story. And then I'll just give you a little short little thing, a method that he taught how to work with anger. All the students at Nalanda University during their time there, they had to present a talk. And almost everybody picked a great master from before them and kind of presented their work and a little bit of commentary. Shantideva was not liked. The students there thought he was kind of bringing a bad reputation to the university. They called him Busuku. And Busuku meant the one who sleeps, eats, and goes to the toilet. They saw him sleeping all day, eating and going to the toilet. They didn't like him, they wanted him out. So they thought they'd embarrass him. So when his turn came up, they said, the ones organizing the talks, they said, do you want to give something, who are you going to choose to speak about, or do you want to do something original? He said, I'll do something original. And they thought, we got him, we'll embarrass him. Okay. Then they set up a high throne, which is what was done in ancient India, right? higher than this, and he sat on it. And rather than have all the stairs going up, they only have the stairs going halfway. Shantideva climbed the few stairs, and like that, no one saw what happened, but he was on top. He started talking. And they thought, okay, he's really going to put his foot in his mouth, and we'll get him out of here. And as he started talking, they couldn't believe what they were hearing. It was something very, very special. And subsequently, this became a book called The Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by Shantideva. There are many English translations. Stephen Batchelor is one of the best, but there are many. Alan Vesna-Wallace have a translation, both from Sanskrit and Tibetan. Anyway, there are many translations. So and that book has 10 chapters. So when he was in what now we know is the 9th chapter, he rose from the throne and went out the rafters. They lost him. And they couldn't believe it, right? So they went running after him. Finally, they found him and they said, "We had no idea. Please come back and teach us." He said, "I'm sorry, I have some other responsibilities." And then they said, "Well, please write down, what you were talking about." He said, "I already have. It's rolled up in the rafters." And that became the book, A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. When His Holiness the Dalai Lama had to leave precipitously in March 1959, as the Chinese military were shelling his home, he picked up very few things. It happened very quickly. And he came incognito, dressed as you guys, not as me. And one of the things that he brought almost no personal possessions. He brought this book. And everywhere he goes in the world, he always takes it with him. It's very special. So there's one part that deals with anger, and it's like this. This is how it is, and I'll put it a little bit in modern idiom. If somebody comes and smashes you on the head with a stick, I don't think we do that anymore, do we? I don't think so. We're good at words. We can cut people down with words. We're very good at that. So let's say it's somebody using some very sarcastic, cutting words to somebody else. So his analogy, I'll go through it with a stick. He says, why do we get angry at the person? Stupid. What hit my head? The stick. So why do we get angry at the stick? You didn't get it. Well, many people laugh, like, well, that's ridiculous, right? Ridiculous. How can I get this? What do you mean get angry at the stick? But when you just think that way and you do chuckle, often you'll chuckle, what happens to the anger? It's like the other exercise we did, it kind of has nowhere to go. It kind of has to evaporate. So in this case with the cutting words, it's like, why don't you get angry at these cutting words, these sarcastic words? Because they're the one that hurt you. So thinking this way, we can depersonalize a bit. And Buddhism is all about depersonalizing, about reducing attachment, reducing ego. And if you don't have much of an ego, you don't get angry. Now you may say, well, that's not true. Sometimes I'm really down on myself, so I don't have much ego. And I do get angry sometimes at myself. Actually, getting down on yourself is a big ego. In the sense that it's me stuff. That's a big ego. We don't usually think that way, but it's kind of more selfish stuff. It's self-preoccupation. Better move on. I'm just about supposed to be done, and I think I have about 30 slides to go through, so I have to move. Okay, jealousy. We talked a little bit about that. I have another slide which I couldn't show you. I've really been away a long time, and I'll get in trouble if I even mention it. I better be quiet. It's, who is she? I don't know. A woman with very, very well built, low-cut dress. I think it's what someone told me. I forget who it is. Yeah, and then somebody else is sitting next to her. It's Sophia Loren. Have you seen it? And she's looking like this, yeah, jealous. But I think I can't show that slide anymore. Arrogance, okay? Pride. Pride is dangerous. And all of us have probably ventured into some pride, arrogance sometimes, yeah? Hopefully we're not stuck there, because we wall off. It's like being in prison when we're arrogant, because we don't trust anybody. We believe we know better. We lose good friends. It's like being in prison. So when we find ourselves getting arrogant, it's very important to tell ourselves that this is a trap. The wall gets too high, you can't get out. You're stuck. It's very lonely, very isolated, and not a good place to be. Ignorance, I think I'm going to save most of this for the weekends, talking about ignorance. Many kinds of ignorance. Here we're talking about ignorance of not knowing who we are. You say, well, I know who I am. I'm Barry. Okay. But if we go a little deeper, who am I? Right? We don't usually know. And what we think is us is usually wrong. Okay? So it's ignorance means not knowing reality correctly. Reality of who we are and reality of the material world. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been having these dialogues with scientists and often quantum physicists for 30 years. David Bohm, who since has passed, was a great quantum physicist, a very close personal friend of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and others also. One of the reasons this is such a rich dialogue is that there are tremendous overlap in understanding of the world from the perspective of Buddhist philosophy and the perspective of quantum physics. Mind the gap. Mind the gap. Or should I say, mind the gap. So what's the gap? Sorry? Perception and reality. Okay, very good. Appearance and reality. Perception is part of it. Also our concepts. So what appears to our mind, we take to be real. Without thinking about it, we take it to be real. Okay? You get out of your car and you step on some pavement or something. You don't think for a moment, or you don't have the, that's kind of made up of 99.999999999% empty space. Isn't that right? Yeah? The atom, everything's made up of molecules, atoms, subatomic particles. The atom is made up of 99.9999999% empty space. Essentially all empty space. Yet when we get out of our car and stand on that hard ground, we don't think we're going to fall through. Now maybe Jerry does. Okay. So our appearance of, in this case, a solid ground that I'm going to stand on when I get out of my car, it's false. That's the appearance. It's not real. That's not reality. Okay? Now that doesn't matter so much. But when we apply it to our ego, okay, big deal to make a big mistake on who we are and act on that, which we do all the time. And we get hurt and we hurt others because we don't know who we are. Okay? So the ignorance is just what I'm talking about. The opposite is wisdom. Wisdom of knowing who we are and all of reality correctly. Is very similar to quantum physics. Okay, enough said. We'll talk more about that over the weekends. This Saturday, Sunday, this weekend, and the following weekend. Okay, shifting our focus away from me, I see, I can see it here, great. and iPhone. Normally we see differences, yeah? When we meet people, see other people, often we focus on the differences. Those differences are very superficial. They're not very deep, okay? It's gender, yeah? It's race, it's age, it's, how much hair, how little hair. So many differences we focus on, okay? But what we miss is one important quality that we all share. What is it? Buddha nature, yes. Yeah. Who said that? Thank you. We all want to be happy, don't we? We all want to feel well. And the corollary to that is none of us want to hurt. None of us want to suffer. Thank you. We want to be well. Okay? We all share that, and yet we tend to forget that. We kind of look at those superficial differences. Of course, there are differences, but this is more fundamental. This deep sense of wanting to be happy. None of us want to hurt. We all want to feel good. Okay? So, based on this notion, we can have what I call an attitudinal shift away from always this me stuff. Okay? If we recognize again and again that we all share this common quality of wanting to be well and not to hurt, the more we remember that, okay, we then feel closer to others, whereas these superficial differences tend to separate us. Okay? And so the more we can do that, we can change our attitude from selfish attitude to concern for others. Just by, again, like a mantra, everyone, we all want to be happy. None of us want to hurt. The more we remind ourselves of that, we begin to shift that attitude away from ego, selfish stuff, to concern for others. And we automatically become closer to others. We can then redefine we, I, Barry. We have the choice to redefine who I am. Why? Because we don't have to be limited to this body. Okay, why not? The body doesn't belong to us. Who does it belong to? Who are the rightful owners of our body? Comes from the sperm and the egg, mother and father. So who's the rightful owners? Our parents. Yes. I mean, we have the choice to think this way. I'm not going to get into an argument with you, but we have the choice to think this way. That this is kind of pedagogical. That because this body at least has something to do with others, not just totally mine, which we normally take to be, okay? That it does have something to do with my mother and my father, okay? Therefore, we can shift this attitude of defining I, me, and this as this body. Okay, we can shift it. It's our choice. We don't have to do it. We call it our own. So we can shift this identity of me or I to we. Yeah? Just like we formerly called it this body, we can shift that. We can expand that to we. We can expand that to the whole human and animal family. So we become one member of this large human family. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been saying this again and again, that the notion of nationhood is old-fashioned. It was last century and before. And that now we're so interconnected because of commerce, because of education, because of the internet, because of so many things. We're so closely connected that national boundaries are losing, their reason. Okay. One human family. I like this slide. Can you see? Is it too dark? The bunny has got its ear over the piglet, kind of hugging the piglet. I don't know if you can see it. Okay. Forgiveness. I think this is often misunderstood. Forgiveness is a solo activity. Okay. I think all of us probably have some hurt built up, maybe many. Okay. And we don't quite know how to let go of them, those hurts, often. Okay. So when we begin to recognize that actually the hurt is not hurting the other person, by holding a grudge, but it's hurting us. When we begin to recognize that, then we begin to have the freedom to let go. Okay? It doesn't have to involve the other person at all. It can if you want. It doesn't have to involve the other person at all. Okay? It's taking care of yourself. Forgiveness. It's very powerful. I suspect all or many of you have forgiven some things, let go of that hurt. It's incredibly uplifting. You really feel that a weight has been lifted from your shoulders. Quite powerful. Forgiveness. Whoops. Gratitude. Living in a state of grace. Feeling gratitude for everything and everybody is quite an amazing way to live. And as we open our heart more, have less ego, and more concern for others, naturally, gratitude begins to arise and increases. Okay, living in gratitude is a very joyous way to be, to live. Generosity has many different faces. It involves, obviously what I think most people think about is giving resources, money, food, clothing, housing. It also is a smile, giving a smile, a hug when appropriate. It's kind words. It's listening non-judgmentally. It's all a way of being generous. Teaching or guiding others who are open. We don't want to be, in kind of an equal, receptive, willing way. Guiding people to help them to find more happiness. Again, not going out on a crusade. Okay. Ethical discipline. This is kind of our internal moral compass. We've often lost it. It has centrally to do with integrity. It has to do with transparency. So what's happening inside and what we project outside, they're pretty much the same. Okay? The opposite of this is hypocrisy. Young people are very aware of this stuff. They pick up on it right away if we're not being real. Basically, it's no harm. It's not harming others. It's not harming ourselves. Ethical discipline. Next is tolerance or patience. This is the opposite of anger. So as we begin to recognize our anger early and begin to learn how to, detour it, transform it into tolerance, into love and compassion. Okay? I'm assuming that, none of us raised the hand when I asked anybody never get angry. Okay? So we all get angry. And I'm assuming that we don't like it. Anybody here like to get angry? Raise your hand if you like to get angry. Sometimes a few people. I think a few people, yeah. Sometimes you feel kind of strong, when you get angry. Yeah. But often that feeling doesn't last. It often turns into regret or even into guilt. In the Tibetan language, there's no word for guilt. In Buddhism, there's no concept for guilt. Anybody here ever get guilty? There is regret. Regret. But it doesn't have those overtones of beating yourself up that guilt does. It's very practical. So there's an expression that says 9 times failing and 9 times, going forward again. It's very practical. Okay? It's learning from your mistakes, but not beating yourself up. Concentration is what we're going to spend a little bit of our time over the weekends doing. It's meditation. It's learning how to focus our minds. We tend to multitask. We tend to, be kind of, we're out of balance often. We're out of balance. We're kind of doing this, and we're doing that, and we're doing this and the other, and then we lay down to bed and we go, and then we wake up in the morning groggy, haven't slept, So meditation helps bring us into the present, helps us focus our minds, okay? That's one part of meditation. The other part is to bring these, constructive emotions into our life. So we analyze, for example, compassion. And there's certain ways to do it. And I'll be talking about one of those ways over these weekends in terms of recognizing kindness in all others. It's one way to enhance or develop our compassion through meditation, through kind of what we call an analytical meditation, where we kind of think about it a little bit, and then when we get some little aha, some feeling, then we go to the first kind of meditation. We stay there, focus on it, back and forth. I think I have some slides that talk a little bit more about meditation, just briefly. Wisdom, I've already mentioned, is the opposite of ignorance. It's knowing who we really are. Anybody here know who you really are? Raise your hand. Couple, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe a few more I didn't see. Okay. We could discuss that further. And we will over the weekend, okay? I'm trying to get through a lot of stuff here. Meditation, good. So you don't have to be a monk or a nun to meditate, okay? Anyone can meditate. And some of the great practitioners in the Buddhist tradition have been not monastic people, okay? Of course, many monastic people have been great meditators also, but either way, okay? Some people say, do I have to become a monk or a nun to meditate? Of course not. What is meditation? It's familiarizing our mind with what is wholesome. Familiarizing our mind with what is wholesome. You've probably heard a lot of different things here and there about what is meditation, and most people are often confused. So I'm going to give a broad brushstroke, of what is meditation. And this is the broadest brushstroke. It's familiarizing, our mind with wholesome, like compassion, like love, like wisdom, like this change or impermanence that I talked about a little bit before. Things like this. It also, meditation develops the mind to become more stable. Stability is opposite of distraction or multitasking. Okay. We all know what distraction and multitasking is, so you have to imagine what stability is, okay? But if you're engrossed in something, if you're doing a math problem, if you're engrossed in fixing your bicycle, if you're engrossed in whatever you're doing, and you get engrossed in it, your mind for some time is stable. It's on that task, okay? That's stability, okay? Clarity is something that we probably don't know too well. It doesn't mean that the object is more clear. It means our mind is more clear. Now, there are times when our mind does seem to be more clear, and you probably have identified some of those times. We take that much deeper, the clarity, kind of recognizing the clarity of our minds through meditation. So our mind and the object become one, like water poured into water. Okay, no difference. That's being absorbed. And that's what happens with regular meditation. Okay? Two basic types. The first type is called concentration. It's also called focused meditation. It's also called, literally, the Tibetan is shine, and shi is peace, and ne is to stay. So we say calm, abiding. It's kind of a literal translation. It just means to focus the mind. Okay? Shamatha is the word that's often used from the Sanskrit. The Pali is similar. And the objects that we use are most commonly the breath. Okay? We focus on the breath. And most commonly it's focused at the base of the nose. Maybe if I can really go through quickly, we'll do it together. Let's see how much time we have. It could be a mental, could be a mental image of the Buddha, okay? A mental image. And that can be on our crown, in our heart, can be in front of us, usually facing the same direction we are. It could be the size of our palm, when we get better, the size of our thumb. And when we get much better, the size of a sesame seed in our heart chakra. Okay? Image of the Buddha. Or if we have if we're involved with another religion, it could be Jesus Christ, it could be Muhammad, it could be Brahma, Shiva. And then, sorry, I went the wrong way. No. Oh yeah, sorry. Mind. So that's not easy to do. Okay, we have to identify experientially the important qualities of the mind, clarity and awareness. And once we're able to identify those, that's what we meditate, concentrate on. They're not easy to identify. Okay? So sometimes you see people kind of meditating like this. You ever seen people like this? Huh? They're meditating on the mind. Okay? The Dzogchen tradition in Buddhism, or the Mahamudra tradition in Buddhism, or the Zen tradition is very similar. Okay, very similar. Meditating on the mind itself. And the second type is analytical, and I've given 4 possible topics. There are many others. Suffering nature. Okay? And the more we actually meditate on the suffering nature, it begins to enhance our compassion. Okay? Change. So there's gross impermanence. If I'm holding a cup of a beautiful crystal vase and I drop it accidentally, shatters, okay, that crystal vase has become impermanent. It's broken. That's gross impermanence. Gross impermanence is only possible because there is subtle impermanence as part of nature. Subtle impermanence is momentary change. Okay? The scientists here know all about that. Everything's changing moment to moment. So we meditate on subtle impermanence, and the very accomplished meditators can experience that momentary change. Not easy to do. And what's good about that, not good, what's helpful, what's healthy about that, is that when you come to your death, time of your death, no big deal. It's just momentary change, one moment to the next. It's the concept we say, oh, I'm dying. Concept, not real. So these meditators that are very good at identifying subtle change, subtle impermanence, moment-to-moment change, all they see is one moment to the next. There's no death for them. It's a much richer experience when we die, and it's a much richer experience when we live, because every moment is fresh and new. Okay? It's a little bit like having Alzheimer's. And emptiness. Okay? That's the Buddhist wisdom. It doesn't mean nothing, but it's close to it. And we'll talk about that a little bit over the weekends. I'll say it, so minding the gap, which we talked about briefly, that our appearances are not real. Okay? When we begin to recognize that gap, we're getting close to the understanding of emptiness. Okay, this is, I think, somebody in a past life. Sitting after about two and a half hours, maybe 2 hours of meditation inside this MRI scanner. Okay, and we were wrapped in and couldn't move, and we had a little headphone and a little microphone and headphones. We could hear and talk, and we were told to do different meditations at different times and to stop meditating. So we had 4 different activities to do during this 2-hour period. Meditation 1 or number 2 or number 3 or no meditation. Stop meditating. First meditation was shamatha, the concentration stuff. We chose our object. The second meditation they called open awareness. They called it open presence. It's like Dzogchen or Mahamudra. It's like meditating on the mind, okay, where your field is wide open, but you don't fixate on anything. Okay? And the third meditation was that same one, open presence, with compassion. And you were free to however you kind of juiced it to bring the compassion into the meditation. Okay? And they did, basically, there were some psychological testing, but primarily fMRI, functional magnetic resonance, MRI, and EEG, electroencephalography. So this is the brain, this is the front, this is the back, top, bottom, okay? Temporal lobe is here. This in blue is the prefrontal cortex. It's a huge area. And that area was, so this study involved about 11 long-term meditators who had a minimum of 10,000 hours of experience. 10 hours, I wish. 10,000 hours of experience. And what they found was that the prefrontal cortex was structurally more developed. It was bigger on MRI scanning. And also there was more blood flow. It seemed to be more active. And what happens in the prefrontal cortex, it's called the executive control center, executive function. Okay? Higher level, kind of cognitive function happens in the prefrontal cortex. So things like planning, reasoning, imagination. Not exactly our identity, but some sense of who we are, and particularly who we are in terms of others, kind of social orientation, okay? And effective socialization, and also empathy, feeling like the other person is feeling, empathy. Okay? These were more highly developed in the long-term meditators compared to controls. Okay, these were some meditation expertise, enhanced emotional sharing, and a broad perspective, okay, compared to the control group of non-meditators. And they're showing here stuff in the insula and the anterior insula, more highly developed areas of emotional sharing and broad perspective that occur. And I don't know who this is. He's lost his hair, lost his cap. So what they found was these gamma waves, which are high intensity, high amplitude, and high frequency, so they come quickly. This part is my drawing. Before and after is an actual EEG, okay? I didn't have the tracing when I made this slide of the burst. These are gamma waves, and when they come, in a group, they're called bursts. So these bursts of gamma waves happened only when the long-term meditators were meditating. When they were told to stop, those things went away, and in non-meditators who were trained for 2 weeks did not show up. Okay? So first they thought it was some kind of muscle artifact, facial, scalp, or something. They've done a lot of work to factor that out. It's not muscle artifact. And now they're still not sure, but they think it has to do with synchronicity over the cortex, harmonization, different parts of the cortex, kind of talking to each other, which is radical. because traditionally neurology thought that maybe a millimeter or two maximum, cortex could talk, communicate. So this is something very new. They don't fully know what it means, but it seems to be real. Okay, there are some applications of meditation. This is for relapse. This is for depression relapse. And you can see going out about 2 years that SSRIs, the standard antidepressant medications, versus MBCT, is a mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. It's a type of meditation, okay, was equal for, preventing depression relapse. That's powerful, okay? This was done by Siegel in 2010, published in the Archives of General Psychiatry. Oh, okay, this has got a lot on here. Yeah, let's see if I get the next one. There we go. So this is talking about the difference between task-specific learning and process-specific learning or memory. Okay? So there's a classic study by, I think it's McGuire. Yeah, McGuire did a couple of them. This one was 2009. There's a couple of them with taxi drivers, and showing that the length of time that they, do I have that here? I think it's up with this. I think this is the taxi drivers, I think. Anyway, the length of time that they drive a taxi, their memory increases, but it's task specific. So if they're only the memory for streets in New York, I think there were New York taxi drivers they looked at, that memory increases. But if you transpose that memory to some other domain, it doesn't work. They don't have better memory. Okay? So it's task specific. Meditators, the opposite, or not the opposite, more broad, it's process specific. So across disciplines, across areas, the memory will be enhanced with long-term meditation. Okay, that's what that slide's all about. Okay. Oh, wow. Not bad. Okay, so I have a Facebook site, my name. It's a public figure, and it's not chatting. It's kind of educational. I put it out every other day, and it's all about the stuff we've been talking about. So have a look. If you like it, like the page, and then you get the post automatically. And this is the URL, the website for Altruism in Medicine Institute, altruismmedicine.org. Okay. You want to meditate? Getting tired? You want to meditate? Anybody want to meditate? Okay, good. So make sure your cell phones are off, okay? Because you'll be embarrassed if yours goes off. And we'll do a concentration meditation, shamatha, on the breath. So sit up straight, okay? And then relax your shoulders, okay? And I'd like you to do this with your eyes open. Now some people can't do it with their eyes open. Okay, close them. It's okay, not a big deal. But if you can't, leave your eyes open and glance down like this, okay? Just kind of glance a little bit in front of you down. Okay, mouth closed. Breathe normally through your nose, just a normal breath. And I want you to kind of take your concentration, your awareness, and put it right at the bottom of the nose as that air is kind of gently going in and out. Okay? You can feel that sensation at the bottom of the nose. Now, when you get distracted, you'll think about, well, I didn't get dinner tonight. What can I get quickly? I'm really hungry, and da-da-da. All these thoughts. A sound may come up. You may feel uncomfortable in your body. Sitting for 2 hours, watching this guy walk around all the time. You may get distracted. What I want you to do is bring your focus back to the breath at the base of the nose, okay? And if that happens many times, so be it. That's the work of meditation. We'll do it for 5 minutes. I'll do it with you. Please meditate. Stop your meditation. Anybody fall asleep? Anybody have monkey mind? You know, one of the kind of goals of meditation is to balance alertness and dullness or laxity or getting sleepy. You balance those. So on the one hand, you don't get too dull or sleepy. Okay? On the other hand, you don't get too distracted, excited, and monkey mind. Okay? So you stay alert yet relaxed. And that's one of the things that comes through doing meditation on a regular basis. So if you like doing this meditation, or you feel it might be helpful for you and for those around you, do it every day. Good time of day is the morning for most of us. Most of us are freshest in the morning. Do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. How long you do it's not so important. I would recommend you don't do it too long, because then the next day you'll kind of find something else to do, right? The important thing is regularity. So let's open it up to some questions. If there's just a few people, we can pass around a mic. If there are more, we can put a couple I think we've set up a couple standing mics. You can come and stand in the aisles and ask your questions. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, BJ. So you feel free just to come on down, and you can come in front of the mic and ask your questions. Please, go ahead. And there's 2 aisles for those of you on either side of the auditorium. You guys want to come down? Is it? Sure, please. Yeah. Please, would you mind coming to the mic? Is that too threatening? Or you guys are Americans, okay? In Japan, they won't do this.
I heard there's a connection between Buddhism and quantum physics. I didn't quite catch what's the connection in there.
Right, okay, good. I'm not a quantum physicist, so, but some of the connections are this. If you look for something on the subatomic level from the perspective of quantum physics, you can't find it. You can find its location, but not where it's going, its velocity, speed, or vice versa. But you can't find both. That's a very Buddhist understanding, because Buddhism is kind of a deconstructive philosophy, so that there's no solidity in Buddhism. In quantum physics, same thing. There's no solidity. I mean, things have a wave, or they have a particle kind of duality. Things can't be found if they're looked for. And thirdly, there's this thing called entanglement theory in quantum physics, where everything has a relationship with everything else, regardless if it's at the other end of the universe, has some influence. And that's kind of a Buddhist understanding of karma, or a Buddhist understanding of cause and effect. So those are 3 areas. Mind and Life Institute, they have a lot on this stuff. They've recorded a number of these dialogues with His Holiness and some of the quantum physicists. So their website might also be of benefit. Yes, please. Entanglement theory. Well, I don't know much about it. I'm sorry, the question was my father. I see. Really? Wow. Yes, of course, of course. Well, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. Yeah, but he lived a long and good life. What's your name, please? Sandy Bothman. I see. Lovely, lovely. Thank you very much for asking. Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. Very nice to see you. Yes, please.
I have
silly question. When I'm meditating, I feel an itch or I want to swallow.
Yeah, you know, it's balancing alertness and relaxation. So if you're too uptight fighting the itch or the swallow, then scratch it or swallow. Okay? On the other hand, if you always give in to scratching and swallowing, you know, you haven't developed your kind of your single-pointedness. Okay? You're getting distracted. So find a balance there. You know, don't fight it too much, but a little bit.
It was tough, you know, it's
Mm-hmm.
tough. Because
Yeah.
after that long, you get the monkey mind.
Yeah, exactly.
And, oh, was I do this and that?
Yeah.
I better do this tomorrow. It's like, you got to go back to that.
That's it, is to recognize when you're distracted and then act on it. Come back to your object of your meditation. And the more you do it, the more used to that process you become, and slowly, it doesn't happen overnight, but slowly the distractions will reduce.
So I found, I've been doing a lot of mindful study, and something that came up that I thought was really cool, gratitude. Feelings of gratitude directly activate brain regions associated with neurotransmitter dopamine. And yeah, that's pretty awesome. The natural drug. I just thought you might like to hear it. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Lovely. Thank you. Meditation is often, it's not easy, you know. It takes a lot of training, and it takes doing it regularly. It's a little bit like training athletics. You know, if you just train to be an athletic, you know, runner, to be an Olympic runner, and you just do it occasionally, obviously you're never going to get there, right? You have to do it pretty much every day for many hours, know what you're doing, have a trainer, you know, a teacher, and then put in the time and the effort. Same thing with training our minds. We need to put in the time, we need to make the effort, and we need a trainer. You know, so we need to have a book or a teacher or something we can go to when we have questions. We all have questions like this. So that was wonderful. Please. Yeah, very good. Very good. For most of us at the beginning, keeping our eyes open is a distraction. The reason that we do that is that with time, if we continue to meditate, our mind will become clearer. And when we go deeper into meditation, that becomes very important. We'll develop a clearer mind. And that's why His Holiness the Dalai Lama recommends that we meditate with our eyes open. When you look at statues of the Buddha, usually the eyes are open. Now, they're not wide open usually. There are a few statues where actually that is the case, but the eyes are open, but only half open, and they're glancing down. That's the position that the Buddha is usually depicted in old statues. And the reason is to develop that clarity. Now, you have to train at it. You know, at first the eyes want to focus on something. We're so used to drilling a hole with our eyes, right? So we have to kind of slowly, with time, you know, have a soft gaze. But if it doesn't work at all, then close your eyes. It's not a huge difference. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm wondering what the receptivity was like at Stanford in terms of interactions there, and whether you feel like maybe because of the FMRI and all the residents and stuff, like now, because that's kind of your role, is seriously
Yeah. Right. Very good question. Thank you very much. Well, I had two experiences at Stanford. One was mostly in the medical community. It was a medical grand rounds, but we did talk about compassion. And I think for a lot of the doctors, this was a little bit new. I mean, of course, they know what compassion is, but the full depths and where it fits in the practice of medicine and the practice of, healthcare, I think was new to many of the doctors there. And I think, and I hope, that they understood the importance of not only our emotional lives and how that impacts on our physical life, but also vice versa, how our physical life impacts on our emotional life. And therefore compassion becomes something very compelling to be part of our repertoire as health providers. But I think, it was a reception that was a bit, it was novel, it was new for many of them, and I think they were, I don't know where they'll go with this. Now the other group was the C-Care group at Stanford, and those folks are kind of really into compassion. And a lot of people came to that because from here or there, maybe they've heard my talk or seen something, and they wanted to come and listen. And that was a much livelier group. There were people from the media there who invited me then, and we had some interviews over the Stanford radio. There were people from different walks of life. It was a much kind of a broader kind of community, and I think they were people that were much more. When I asked how many people practice meditation, almost everybody raised their hand. So that was a very different group. The second lecture. Now the MRI and the EEG studies were done at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Okay, and those folks are very open to all this stuff. Richard Davidson, and he has a big lab called the Weissman Center, where he has over 100 scientists working for him, neuroscientists. So that's a big place. And not all, but many of those folks also have a meditation practice. Many of them are quite spiritual people. Some of them are Buddhist, some are Hindu, some are kind of, a bit eclectic, but they're quite open to these things. Many of them meditate, and they're scientists at the same time. So in different places, you have very different, I think, receptivity. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, and I learned so much. I'm an acupuncturist, so I have a lot of questions. So I hope I can right now I want to touch on what I heard about meditation. So I the next 7 years I
Mm-hmm.
warms from there, and I get actually I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel my knee hurt.
Uh-huh.
Months ago, so I take you down to my toe. So, about 5 minutes, the pain will out. And at that time, I was going to keep meditation, but it's about 5 minutes. So I started to feel a little bit to that side, something very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
My question is, because now they know the Catholicism and then brains, called second brain.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How do you see the diet? How important for the meditation? You see the patient vegetarian or as a judge produce hormones, some kind of brain.
Mhm.
So kind of brain and brain connected.
Mm-hmm.
And I know
Mhm.
this kind of
Mm-hmm.
that or emphasize something.
Yeah.
I know the scientific
Yeah.
feeling.
Right. Yeah, thank you very much. You mentioned many different things, and I think you wanted me to comment more on the nutritional aspect. Okay, very good. From a meditation point of view, being vegetarian or not is probably not a huge difference. From a point of view of compassion, it makes a big difference. Okay, so we try to be vegetarian or as much vegetarian as possible to maintain our health. I was a strict vegetarian for several decades, and my health insidiously, slowly declined. And then I had some wake-up calls, I had some illnesses, and I recognized that it wasn't working for me, and doctors told me I was right on the cusp, on the edge of being malnourished. And so then I started introducing some meat in my diet some years back. And then I didn't really like that. My body didn't like it so much. And so I reduced that to a bare minimum. And now I go a couple months of being strict vegetarian. And then when I'm traveling, particularly when I'm in this country and wonderful friends and good food, then I'm eating fish. So, but listen to the body is very important. Maintaining your health is very important. If your health declines, it's very hard to do much of anything, let alone meditate. So keeping your health is very important. Now, specific for meditation, if you, we all tend to get that monkey mind, and we all tend to sometimes get sleepy, okay? If we tend to be on one side of that more of the time than not, like every time we meditate, we fall asleep, okay? And that happens regularly, okay? Then we probably want to eat a little less and eat a little less heavy, fatty foods, okay? On the other hand, if we're always monkey mind, the mind is always, just we sit down and start a meditation, the mind goes, brrr, doesn't stop, okay? That means we probably need a little more food, not a lot, but a little more, and a little heavier food, maybe a little more oil kind of stuff, okay? Now, a couple other, I'll digress a little bit from diet and talk about other things about, balancing the alertness and the sleepiness. Is light, the light, okay, and temperature. So if we tend to be monkey mind all the time, turn the lights down, right? I mean, that's what we do at night when we go to sleep. We usually turn the lights down, right? Okay. Now, when we want to wake up, we flip the light on or we keep the curtains open, the sun comes in, we wake up. Okay. If we're always kind of falling asleep in our meditation, dress lighter or turn on the AC or the fan, make it cooler or open a window. If on the other hand, we're always monkey mind, make it a little warmer. Okay, so those are little things to help that balance in addition to nutrition. So, there's actually, we don't, as a monk, we don't have vows that we have to be vegetarian. Our vows are actually from the time of the Buddha to take what's offered in terms of food. And as you know, traditionally the monks went on alms rounds in the morning and went to different families' homes, and people gave, one of our implements is that bowl. People call it a begging bowl. It's not begging. We call it alms because it's a reciprocal benefit. The monk or nun and the person offering both get benefit. We call it an alms. It's kind of a big bowl. Not a bowl, what do you call it? A bowl, yes. So to accept what's being offered, that's for the monastics. Obviously, it's best if we can be vegetarian. It's better for the planet, it's better for ecology, it's better for the animals that have to be killed, and of course their families. It's better all the way around. So if we can at least reduce meat, if we're eating meat, it's also much better for our health, okay, to have less meat. Please.
I've heard a lot that meditation so I guess my question would be, first of all, I'm curious, since you're also a doctor, so what brings both your together, why? What is it about meditation?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, great, thank you. The person that has really developed this is John Kabat-Zinn, and he no longer works, but for about 30 years worked at a chronic pain clinic at the University of Massachusetts. And what he developed is he didn't develop it. He took meditation from Burmese teachers and Burmese and also Indian teachers who had trained under Burmese teachers. and adapted that meditation to modern life. You didn't have to be Buddhist. So the way he presents it is totally in a non-religious, non-Buddhist terminology. And basically it's like we did with the breath. You know, they're doing what they call 4 mindfulnesses. They're watching the breath, they're watching the sensations, the thoughts, the feelings inside the body. So it's paying attention and single-pointedly focusing. And when you talk to people that go through the program, they go through, I think it's a 2-week program, and then they have to do about, I think it may be 45 minutes of meditation every day. And he has several books. The thick one is Catastrophic Living, where he describes all this. And, you know, to stay with the program, you have to do your meditation every day. And when you talk to people that have been through the program and stay with it, and you say, how you doing? And they say, I'm doing great. And you say, do you mean your pain has gone away? They say, no. You say, wait a minute. You said you were doing great. And they say, we learn how to focus moment to moment on the sensations in the body. And when you do that, you don't bring in the thoughts, oh, I'm in pain, oh, this is going to break, oh, I can't stand this, oh, I'm going to die. All that stuff elevates the level, the experience of pain. Okay? So they learn to sort of not do that by focusing moment to moment on the sensation in their body. So they don't say that their pain is gone, but they say they've learned a new way to experience, period. And their life has improved. So when the first question, doing fine, or they don't say great maybe, but doing well, what do you mean? Relationships are better, work is better, now they can, you know, hold down a job, etc. You're welcome. John is a good friend of mine. He's a very lovely man. Please. Hi. Right. No, I think it is. It is. Sometimes it's an outcome. It's an outcome. I mentioned it briefly. When you do a lot of meditation, naturally you have a broader perspective. Part of that is that you're getting rid of clutter and chatter. You know, often our minds, there's this background, all that stuff. Okay, and that narrows your focus. When you slowly, through meditation, get rid of that chatter and that clutter, so that there's more room, there's more space, there's more clarity, the mind naturally adopts a wider perspective. So we often look at it as an outcome. Thank you. Good. So I think it's perfect. It's 9 o'clock. So I'd like to, I think there's one more slide, actually. Yeah. Thank you very much. A few last comments. One is about altruism in medicine. Please come to our website, find out more about what we're doing, get involved with us, walk the path with us in any way that you want to support us. We're open and willing and happy to do that. We're happy to network with other groups and individuals doing similar work. So please find out more about us and join us if you're interested. I would like to thank from my heart a few people. Of course, Dr. Kimball, Chris Kimball, who's invited us here, the president of CLU, and his wonderful staff. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank very much the people that kind of made this possible. So some of those people are all you guys, okay? You guys made this possible. But without a few other people, this would not have happened at all. So I'd like a few people to stand and I'd like to thank them from the bottom of my heart. Jerry Clifford. Bill Garlington. Francis Elson. Ed Elson. And there are two people that couldn't make it tonight. They had some very extenuating circumstances. Sal and Edie Santangelo. And lastly, Barbara Wolf. I know her, but Barbara Wolf. Barbara was incredibly kind to host us a year and a half ago at the Camarillo Public Library. And we had a lot of people that we had to turn away, and we felt terrible about it. And so this time, through the kindness of Jerry and our team and Dr. Chris Kimball, we were able to secure a larger hall so that people didn't have to be turned away. So some of you I will see again. These groups are about 40 people on Saturday, Sunday, and we'll go into some of these things in more depth, and we'll do a lot more meditation. Jared, did you want to? Okay, so thank you very much. See you. Hi, Jim. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Barry. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow too.
Good.
Spend the day
good.
with you.
Wonderful.